Leggari countertop kits are like no other on the market. Pre-measured for each step, in-depth tutorials for every design, and every kit comes with a lifetime warranty. Leggari products, the most cost-effective way to enhance any existing countertop surface, hands down. All right guys, we're just about ready to mix up our epoxy. I just want to make sure that all your prep work is done. All your cabinets and your floor plasticed off. You have your tape around your edges for the dirty pour technique. And we're ready to get started mixing. We're going to be using our 3P2 process to mix up the epoxy. And it's a 50-50 mixture with our soft tan and jet black. And then we're also going to be using white effects in this dirty pour. All right guys, now that we have all our resin mixed up, we're ready to make our 6 dirty pour batches. So how you do this is there's really no rhyme or reason to it. You just layer your different colors in however you see fit. Every once in a while, add your effects if you're using effects.
All right guys, we got a lot of the product out. A few things I want to go over. Notice how I'm pouring in different areas. I'm not trying to pour right up next to each other when I pour. And then on my last bucket, I always like to fill in the wider spots. Now again, this is really thick. These will wind up touching, so we want to be cautious of that. I don't want to pour a big fat puddle out right here that I don't need it. Obviously the more open spots, we'll want to pour a little bit more, and we can always go back and brush stuff in with our fingers to help it level out. The next thing is make sure you get them dumped out of the bucket as fast as you can. So if you want to like have a pattern or a design to follow, make sure you've already drawn that up before you start the mixing process. This one we just went random, but again, I'm kind of taking note of what colors are coming out of the buckets as well. Sometimes you'll pour out and you'll get black right off the bat, and then when you get close to the bottom, we'll get a lighter color. So I always try to jump around the counters and make sure I got all the colors that are coming out throughout that counter I'm doing. So you can see we got light color here, light colors there, over there, and also on the island, so they're all the same. You can do it the opposite way as well, where maybe your island's a lot darker than the rest. It's just kind of what you guys prefer. But if you're trying to make it even throughout the counter, always be looking at what colors are coming out of those buckets. So again, I'm on my last bucket, so I want to make sure I'm just going around filling in these more open spots. A lot of these tighter spots like this will fill in by itself. So everywhere it's really open, that's where I'm pouring this last bucket out. Last thing we need to do is make sure we're filling in any missing spots of resin. So Kyle's going around doing that. I'm just looking for open spots, like especially on your back edges. We have a couple back here. We have a couple back here. You really have to look close because we have black primer. It's easy to miss them, get at different angles and look. And so we're just filling those in right now. Always check your back edges. Once it's slicked off with the resin, it'll level out and flow back in there. All right, once we have the design down, everything's filled in, we're happy with it. Again, you guys, we can mess with any spots we don't like. We could add some fracture veins if we want, but once you're done, you're happy with it, we wanna spritz it with isopropyl alcohol, 91% or higher. You don't have to do that. Once we do that, it will create more cells, like a dispersing effects in the resin. So I'm only gonna do a couple spots so you can see what it does. If you guys want this exact look, you would just mist it with denatured alcohol. That'll help eliminate any bubbles that are trapped, any air that's trapped in the resin from these multiple buckets being poured out everywhere. So I'm gonna just kind of follow a couple of these veins, just really random. Again, just hitting some random spots throughout the counter, and you'll see it'll create more cells and dispersing effects. Once that hits it, it kind of pushes those pigments out of the way. So we want to let the isopropyl evaporate for about 5 minutes. We're going to spray it with denatured alcohol. We can do it twice, right? But we always want to let that evaporate out after we spray it every time. We don't want to just flood the counter with denatured alcohol. It will muddy out the colors in the veins. So again, I'm going to hit it. If I want to hit it again, I'll wait a couple minutes, but this will eliminate all the bubbles. Last thing we want to check for is the right time to pull the tape. The best way to know that is we fold this tape over, and then the resin's going to want to drip, and it's moving really, really quick. So it's running down that tape fast. And you see if we pull that right now, see how fast it's moving? It's going to want to just pull the design down and mess up the design. So we want to let this sit up. It can be anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half up to 2 hours, depending on the temperature in the room that you're pouring it, but that's the best way to check. Fold the tape down, make sure it's moving slow. If you have thick edges like this, these are pretty thick edges, you'll want to pull it sooner than later. If you have really thin edges, you can probably wait a little longer. But again, we want it to be slowly moving down. That way we're not pulling a bunch of design from the top and having it just run on the floor.
All right guys, it's time to pull the tape. As you can see, when I pull this tape back, the resin is just moving very, very slowly down that side, and that's exactly what we're looking for. So we're just gonna go ahead and rip this tape and start pulling it off. When you're pulling it off, you wanna make sure that you're bunching the tape up in your hands, as you'll see me do, just so that you're not dripping resin all over your project. All right guys, now that we have all the tape pulled, rub in this resin where all the drips are forming, just to break up that surface tension so that the resin can run over and run down your face seamlessly. And don't worry about messing up your design. This resin will continue to flow down and your whole edge will be coated and still have that beautiful design coming down. All right guys, now that we got all the drip rubbed in so there's no more surface tension, the last thing you want to do is stick around for about 2-3 hours after you're done with the pour, and periodically you want to scrape your drips. We recommend using like a putty knife like this, something sharp that'll cut those drips off nice and cleanly, and you'll just go around and scrape that bottom edge so that when you come back the next day, we don't have to do much sanding if there are any drips.